Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the CBT Podcast. I'm here with Ethan. I'm here with Rod. And with the NBA season starting in just a couple of hours, today we're going to be talking about the teams that we think have a legitimate chance of winning the NBA Finals this season. It's an exciting time of year. There's hope, there's optimism. We're about to take that away from 22 of the franchises in the NBA. So let's start off with the contender that I feel is the best shot of winning the Finals, and that is the Milwaukee Bucks. Obviously, they have Giannis Antetokounmpo, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton. I feel like when they have that big three together, I said it in the last video, it feels like they never lose. They just always win. So, Rod, Ethan, how are we feeling about Milwaukee this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think their biggest strength is their chemistry. I feel like at this point, Middleton and Giannis have just perfected their play styles as far as matching them together on the court. They know how to find each other in space and win each other to let the other dominate for a period of time. Budenholzer has perfectly figured out how to use Giannis as a defender and offensively as well. Drew Holiday has stepped his game up. We've seen it in the playoffs, on the biggest stages. I just think health is the big thing for them. Obviously, last year, no Middleton against Boston really hurt them, and Brook Lopez, has
Better
had a
team.
bad he's had a bad back his whole career basically. So, but if health is a consistent thing for them, we're going to see them make a deep run.
Yeah, definitely. I think they are going to make a deep run. In terms of being the number one contender, I would disagree in terms of to win it all. But definitely, I think they are second. I think that chemistry that they've had over the past, like, what? I think this team has been together for maybe 5 years now, like 5 seasons, give or
Right
take.
around there.
Yeah, so definitely that chemistry is something that we're really looking for. I mean, not Malcolm Brogdon. Um, Middleton, I think definitely is going to be key this season. He always starts out slow. I know he's not going to be in the beginning of the season. I know he
Yeah.
always starts out slow and then ends up ramping up towards the end of the season. I want to see Brook Lopez do a little bit more, maybe coming into the season. But other than that, I mean, they should be second.
I don't know. I really like the role that Brook Lopez plays in Milwaukee. Bit of a tongue twister there. I love him as the big 3-and-D big. I mean, was he all defense a couple seasons ago? Am I wrong in saying
Yeah.
that?
I think
He
so.
was,
Yeah,
yeah. So I
I
think
think
his
so.
role is perfect as is. I don't think they need to see any more from him as they get enough from their big three. So moving on to another team that I think you guys both think are the best contenders, and that is the LA Clippers. So obviously, we have yet to see this team play together at all. And the roster is the deepest, most talented in the NBA. I mean, Norman Powell as your sixth man is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the perfect sixth man in my eyes. I don't think you could have anyone better. But the biggest concern, once again, has to be injury. John Wall, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard are three guys who I seriously worry about them playing more than 65 games this season. But if they can stay healthy, I do think they'll come out the Western Conference.
Yeah, I mean, the Clippers we've talked about before, they really just have the perfect mix as far as coaching, superstars at the top, and then just solid depth pieces throughout the whole roster. I mean, we've seen them make deep runs, obviously, with Paul George leading them against the Suns a few years ago. In the bubble, they choked the 3-1 lead against the Nuggets. I just think even if John Wall does get hurt, as long as they have PG and Kawhi going into the playoffs and a few of their role players, I think they're the favorites to come out the West right now.
Yeah, I think the lack of having Kawhi Leonard and Paul George these past past season definitely helps some of the role players in terms of scoring and being able to figure out what they can do, what they can't. Give Ty Lue a chance to really see what they're made of and where to put them in the best spots. I think John Wall also has a lot to prove and does have a lot in the tank. I think he is gonna like I said, kind of with Middleton, he is gonna start off slow, and I'm not expecting John Wall to really blow up the stat sheet, but I think defensively and more playmaking is what they're really looking for from him. And I think he's definitely going to contribute in a major way in that part, putting them at the number one spot to just win it all.
Okay, well, moving on to the defending NBA champions, the Golden State Warriors. So they just extended both Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins. I think this was the perfect time to get that done. It's no longer a concern. Now they can just focus on playing basketball and keeping Draymond in control. So, I mean, if you have Steph, Clay, Wiggins, and Draymond, you're going to be a contender. It's as simple as that, especially with a scorer of Poole's caliber coming off the bench. The chemistry is certainly there. They probably have the best chemistry in the NBA. The coaching's there, the talent's there, everything's there for Golden State to be a contender once again.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for them is the fact that they can honestly, at this point, just let Steph, Clay, Draymond coast their way through regular season. Because I think the main purpose of their regular season this year is seeing which guys between Kaminga, Wiseman, Moses Moody, seeing which of those guys earn a spot in the playoff rotation based off the regular season. Because all three of those guys have shown flashes in the past. I think this is going to be a big opportunity for them to step out and break out and show what they can do. And I mean, we already know the Warriors are basically have 4 20-point scorers on any given night with Wiggins, Poole, Clay, and Steph. And if any of their young players break out and just add to that, it's almost impossible to stop them come playoff time.
See, when it comes to the Warriors, my just biggest concern, not really concern, but more like issue with them is at this point Draymond Green. I think as much as he does contribute in major ways, he also is a very big liability on the floor. I think I've come to the realization after they just paid Andrew Wiggins and Poole that they should trade him and really open up that spot for really the younger guys, more athletic guys that really can space out the floor more, really be those cutters that, Steph could really use come playoff time because you already have Jordan Poole, Steph, and Clay shooting threes. You really need those slashers, like guys that can just get to the paint and make their way in there. So
Yeah, I don't think it would make any sense to trade Draymond at this point.
I mean,
I don't think guys who can cut would help Steph more than Draymond Green in what he does for creating his shots. So that
but
doesn't make
that's
a
why
ton
you
of
can
sense to me.
develop one of those players into that.
Yeah, but like they're in win now mode. Steph's what, 34? He ain't got that much time. I don't know if they can afford to be taking time to
They got the
develop a young
man
guy.
there for years. I mean, they sure got time to pay him.
I mean, if you say so.
I think so.
So moving on to a team that was the finals favorite about a month and a half ago. That is the Boston Celtics. Obviously, the reason they are no longer my favorites is because of the coaching situation. Ime Udoka getting a little too excited, you could say. But at the end of the day, this roster is elite. You have two all-star caliber players in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, a top 10 NBA player in Jason Tatum, might I add. They added Brogdon to come off the bench. They have Derek White still, Marcus Smart. This roster is absolutely elite. They showed they had the chemistry last year. My only concern with this team is the coaching and the health of Robert Williams.
Yeah, before the Ime news and he got a little touchy-feely, I think the Celtics were number 4 for me. At this point, they're just completely up in the air. Not having Rob the start of the season, I think they could be at risk to really open up slow out the gate. I think Al is going to have a lot of pressure put on him at the start of the season. I'm not sure if he can handle that right now.
His joints are going to be struggling.
It's they might just snap like this halfway through. But, they do have, what's his name, Captain Jelly. They have the opportunity for a few young guys to step forward, but
Luke Cornett.
Oh,
God forbid.
Hey, I've been hearing very good things about Cornett coming from the Celtics camp. I think he's going to get serious minutes this year.
That would make me happy as the world's number one Celtics
happy too.
hater.
He's a hooper.
Anyways, I think the Celtics last season were a fluke. I just don't think Pasta Fazuli at head coach is going to do it for them. And I think, if they did manage to win a playoff series or two, that would be a good season for them. But anything after that, I think is just lunacy at this point.
This is coming from the guy that has Nick Nurse as their head coach and complains about everything.
Hey, we'll get to your takes. Just keep going.
All right, listen, I am of the opinion that the Celtics have the second deepest team in the league, all things considered. I think especially seeing how Hauser has developed and he really looks comfortable out there. That's just another player. Yeah, that's just another player to add on top of all the other guys that we have. I have to agree with you though. Like if it weren't for Ime getting all excited in the locker room, and Robert Williams having Wyatt's knees, I just really can't see the Celtics making a deep run unless the Robert Williams injury really just goes away after All-Star. And he really just looks like the Robert Williams we saw last season. Yeah, if we see that Robert Williams going into the playoffs, I think these Celtics are going to coast through it in the East.
Yeah, quick shout out to Marshall legend Wyatt Fricks. But moving on, the next team is the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, I think this is a very interesting team that you have to really keep an eye out throughout the regular season because of James Harden. Now, James Harden in Philadelphia, let's be real, he was terrible last year by his standards. I think that James Harden is going to have a crazy bounce back season this year, and he'll really look like the Harden of old. So when you take that into consideration, they could very well have two MVP caliber players playing at once. When you put that with a rapidly improving Tyrese Maxey, they added 65-year-old PJ Tucker, DeAnthony Melton, Montrezl Harrell, even Daniel House. This roster is very good. If Embiid can stay healthy, it's very possible that they win the East in the regular season. They're the 1 seed, have home court. It's just a question of can they keep it all going in the playoffs.
Yeah, I definitely think this is the best Sixers team. You already mentioned they added a few scrappy veteran guys, D'Anthony, PJ Tucker, Montrez. And honestly, I think it's almost a guarantee that Harden plays better than he did last season as a scorer. I mean, that was possibly the worst season he's had since he's been a full-time starter at just scoring the basketball. So I think that's a given. And I think Tyrese Maxey is going to break out this year. I think Harden and Maxey might be the best scoring backcourt in the NBA this year. It's going to be so impossible to stop those guys. And oh yeah, you have the MVP favorite in the front court. So I think the Sixers in the regular season at least will look dominant. But once you come to playoff time, you got Doc Rivers. So it's just that's a big hurdle to overcome. But regular season wise, they're good. They're looking very good at this point.
I just don't believe in the Sixers maybe like you guys do. I love James Harden and Joel Embiid as much as I hate the guy. He's a dominant big man. But I just I just can't. There's something about the 76ers that I feel like they're still missing. As much as I want to say Tobias Harris is that forward that they're really looking for, he's just
Tobias
not
Harris.
that guy. I really try to put faith into him. I think you guys know I was high on him, especially in fantasy. I rode that
Not as
man
high
and
as Kuzma.
that's another topic. Anyways, I just don't see this Sixers team really getting that, that deep. Matisse Thybulle, I mean, I thought he could develop into a really good 3-and-D guy. He's proved
Just
me
a
wrong.
D.
Yeah, he's proved me wrong. PJ Tucker, you saw from what happened with the Heat, he can't really shoot in the corner anymore. So what's he good for? I mean, I don't know. There's something
Good
about
for
this
getting
team.
60 dropped on his head every game.
That's what I mean. I think there's just something about them that they're still missing one or two guys.
And speaking of teams that need to overcome coaching hurdles come playoff times, we have the Brooklyn Nets, right? Now, the Brooklyn Nets star power is something they are not lacking by any means. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons, if he decides to play basketball. I mean, the roster is very good. They added Royce O'Neal and TJ Warren this offseason. TJ Warren, I think, really flew under the radar. We didn't see him play hardly at all last year. And I think he could be an elite scorer off the bench, even a 6-man of the year candidate. So it just comes down to can they get that chemistry down? The Nets last year, especially in the playoffs, did not look like a team. Rather, they looked like 5 players out there playing. I question if Steve Nash can rally the troops enough for them to make a really deep playoff run, and I really don't have faith in him.
Yeah, I was hoping the Nets would rally Steve Nash to a raft and sit in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean in the offseason, but they decided to keep him. I mean, and a lot of people I think are just caught up in the offseason still, but they weathered the storm. If you ask me, they still got KD and Kyrie. And I mean, we're going to see how they look now with Ben Simmons, not to mention the fact they still have 2 of the best catch and shoot 3-point shooters in the NBA in Joe Harris and Seth Curry. You already mentioned MJ Warren. I mean, if he plays 70% of what he looked like in the bubble, that's huge for them.
I mean, finals.
Yeah, the problem is Steve Nash is incompetent. He's the Urban Meyer of the NBA. It's just tough to see a team that he's coaching make a deep run. But I mean, just roster wise and talent wise, offensively, I could definitely see them compete with anybody.
So this is my thing when it comes to the Nets, right? Out of all the teams that we can talk about today, they are the team with the sneakiest way to get into the finals, in my opinion. Basically, they can either just completely die out and not even get past the second round, in my opinion, or they'll make it to the finals and sweep right through. They have Ben, KD, Kyrie, right? Top 3 heavy. Then they got Seth. I'm personally high on Nick Claxton. I kind of like what he does. I kind of like what he does on the offensive rebounds for them and just like overall in the paint. Joe Harris definitely coming back, being that 3-point shooter. And then Royce O'Neal, I think, is a great contributor for that team. I think the biggest question marks when it comes to the Nets is their system. Overall, we just haven't
No
seen.
system.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
around.
We haven't seen
Give to
anything
Kevin
from
and
them.
clear out.
Exactly. Steve Nash has not really even implemented a culture over there. It's just a bunch of little girls complaining, and then you have Kyrie just leading the way. Then you got TJ Ward, which we have not seen healthy since the bubble when he looked like the second coming of MJ. And then you got Markieff Morris, which last time we saw him, he was on the floor. So
I'm not
I don't
sure
really know.
Markeith was worthy of a mention
Yeah,
there, but
and
something
I
we
know,
didn't
but
mention is they lost known sharpshooter Andre Drummond as well. I don't know if you guys saw, he did go 3 for 3 from 3 in a preseason game not
Against
too
the
long
Raptors, of
ago.
course.
Yeah, but moving on to another team that I think is really interesting. Their ceiling is high, but their floor is also really low, and that is the Denver Nuggets. So Jokic, they've got the back-to-back MVP. He led them to the 6th seed last year, and they're getting back their second and third best players in Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. to go along with guys such as Aaron Gordon, Bones Highland off the bench. This is a really interesting team to keep an eye on. Mike Malone is a very good head coach. I have a lot of faith in him to get these guys to play together once again. And if they can, I guess, distribute the shots well enough between the three of them, really keep Jokic as the focal point of the offense, this team could go very deep in the playoffs. My biggest concern with them is the experience late in the playoffs. No one on their roster has really seen it. I don't know if they'd be able to handle the moment, especially against a team like the Warriors, who's been there so many times and know how to execute in those situations.
Yeah, I think the big thing for them is whether or not Michael Porter and Jamal Murray look like their previous selves. Because if they do, they could hit the ground running. I think the biggest thing from them this previous few seasons is that they basically discovered Bones Highland. I mean, if Jamal's healthy, Michael Porter's healthy, he doesn't get those shots, those minutes, those touches. So that's a nice addition for them. In the offseason, Bruce Brown, KCP, guys like that will be very valuable now for just taking pressure off guys like Jamal and MPJ defensively. So I just think as long as they stay healthy, of course, that's the caveat for every team. But I do think chemistry might be an issue. Like we said, Jamal has not seen this MVP Jokic basically. Last time we saw them play together was the bubble basically. So it's going to take some adjusting, but I think come playoff time, this team will be very dangerous to stop.
no.
No.
This team is not getting past Clippers or Warriors in any way, shape, or form. I've already told you guys Jokic playing alongside them too. I don't see Jokic being as dominant as people.
Which makes no sense.
I
I mean,
he's been playing with a bunch of, and they just lost Campazzo.
Losing
Facu?
Campazzo means
Come on,
nothing.
Ethan, bro. I
Come
don't
on.
understand. I
He
don't
plays
understand.
valuable minutes for them.
No, I
That's
don't
like the Celtics
understand.
losing Naismith.
I don't understand how
No.
giving the best passing big man in basketball two offensive weapons for him to play alongside, I don't see how that has a negative impact on the team.
Jamal Murray is a ball dominant point guard.
But he's more than capable of catching and shooting.
Yeah, but you want him on ball.
Well, he's played with Jokic in the past.
Yeah.
It's not like they're just brand new teammates all of a sudden.
What are you on
Yeah,
about?
but now they're going up against the Clippers and the Warriors. My thing is, if the Clippers were still unhealthy, and maybe this is 2 years ago Warriors, okay. But we're talking about a fully healthy Warriors team that just came off a championship, and then a completely revamped, better looking Clippers team. Like,
okay, and can you say for sure that both those teams will be healthy all year?
that's not the well, maybe the Warriors.
Yeah, we
Warriors are
have to take
gonna be
into
more
account that injuries are a very real possibility, and if one or both of
Okay.
those teams get
Okay.
hurt, the
Let's
Nuggets
do it
could be
with
in
the
the
Nuggets.
finals.
Murray, okay, you're gonna tell me Michael Porter Jr. is gonna play 60 games.
Well, any team could get hurt. It's just who's
Yeah.
the healthiest by the end.
We're talking about all the teams that could win a finals, and the Nuggets, I think they could win the Rod.
I don't know, maybe.
I mean, they have the talent.
You don't even believe that.
Yeah, maybe.
No.
Okay, well, let's move on to the final team that we agreed upon to talk about today. I don't really think they're a contender, and that is the Miami Heat. Now, the culture's there, the coaching is there, But is the roster there? I mean, sure, they made it to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals last year. As we're all aware, there was plenty of injuries to go around in both conferences last season. But they lost PJ Tucker, whatever, not that big a deal. They still have Duncan Robinson on the roster. They're paying that man a lot of money. And Jimmy Butler can only do so much come playoff time. He is more than capable of getting a team far in the playoffs. He could be the number one guy. But when you have a 58-year-old Kyle Lowry running the point guard, I just don't think this team has the talent or the athleticism anymore to win the finals.
Well, my big point here is that we've seen the Heat make the finals in the bubble, obviously. One game away last year, and it was a one-man show last year. We saw disappearing acts from Lowry, unfortunately, and Bam.
Expected.
Hero was basically a non-factor. He was hurt the entire conference finals. Duncan
And they
Robinson
just paid the
Duncan
man, too.
Robinson. What I'm saying is,
Too much.
they have a very small distance to go in order to go from one game away to making the finals. It's almost a given we're going to see a better Kyle Lowry than we saw last year. Bam has to take a step. It's been so long. He's just been the same player. A healthy Hero would have made a world of difference in the conference finals last year. And now we're going to see a healthy Oladipo. It's just too many factors going in the Heat's favor. And they were just a game away last year. You're talking like that you're going to take a step back with all these things pushing them
They're
forward.
gonna. The East got so much better, bro. I'm not gonna lie. The East is really deep now, and I don't think the Heat are one of the top 3 best teams by any means.
They're not even close, dude. And on top of that, JJ, you forgot to mention they brought back the GOAT, Udonis. They brought him. Dude, this team is
talking about 58-year-old.
Yeah. Oh my.
You talk about a team that just is not playing in the right year. This is definitely the Heat. Maybe the Heat were good during the bubble, but not come once all the injuries off.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, Ethan, because this is a roster I was saying could use some help, and they currently have a roster spot being filled by Udonis Haslem. Like Miami, if you're watching this video for whatever reason, make the guy an assistant coach, please. There is no need for him to be on the roster. Any other final thoughts about these
veteran leadership?
He can be an assistant coach and do the same thing.
It's not the same.
It is. He can still practice.
Rod, is he a first ballot Hall of Famer in your opinion?
Udonis?
Yeah.
He wouldn't make it in the Hall of Very Good. Semi-good.
He wouldn't make it in the Hall of Mid.
You think Kyle Lowry is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer?
I'm so glad you brought that up, but that is a topic for another video. First ballot Hall of Famer, Kyle.
Ethan, do you think Kyle Kuzma's going to average 26 a game this year?
25, 26? I could see it.
Okay, well,
I forgot Tingus was on the team too. Another floor spacer for him.
On that note, that's going to do it for us in today's video. I'm going to ask that you please drop a like, subscribe, leave a comment. Who do you think the finals favorite is this year? Do you think the Nuggets could win the finals? Is Kyle Kuzma not going to average 26 points? What team's going to tank and get Victor Wembanyama? Thank you guys once again for watching. We'll see you in the next video.